Hey guys, just wanted to make a quick video about a Nissan Patrol Y61 ZD30 Common rail injector pump leaking issue. This is the pump out of my 2008 Patrol, and had an issue of, while the car was running and idling, you would see diesel start to leak out of here and then drip off that underneath the car. It would build up a small puddle of diesel after a minute while it was idling, and the problem persistently gets worse as the RPMs increase and the pressure increases in the pump. It would spill more diesel. So a fix to that is you can actually pull these apart and replace a few O-rings that are inside under these, well, they're called like a pump cylinder head. You can remove the head, replace the O-rings, put it back together, and it should stop leaking. I just wanted to make this video because I was unable to find a great deal of information about sort of how to go about it, if it's fixable, and especially like diagrams of these pumps to show you where all the parts go and what parts go where. It's sort of, Bosch makes so many different high pressure common rail pumps, it's hard to find this exact one. This is actually called a CP1H, I think it's called. This was made for many different types of cars, but you'll find this particular one on all common rail ZD30 Nissan Patrols. So I just wanted to pull this top off to just show you what goes where, because the problem that I've run into, I've already had this one apart on one of the cylinders. When I pulled it apart, all the springs and everything fell apart, and I was unable to sort of figure out where everything went back together, and it's taken me forever to do it. So if this saves one person the headache of, oh no, all the springs fell out, I can't figure out which way it all goes back together, then that was worth it. So just show you what goes where. Alright, sorry for the bad lighting. So this is what it looks like once you remove the piston and the cylinder head from the pump. You're left with this. Now you'll see that the O-ring, that's not actually an O-ring, it's technically a seal. It's practically an O-ring, but a bit different. This is where your high pressure goes from the piston back into the pump body to go up into the rail, and this is the one that leaks. So I've replaced all three of these. As you can see, there's another one that lives just here. That's where my assumption is that it lifts the low pressure fuel, and then the piston squashes it up into the head, which then in turn pushes it through here back into high pressure. So this is the side that they always leak from. You possibly could get away with just replacing that one there, but you know, for the sake of do all three, just so that peace of mind that you're never going to have to pull this apart. As I said, when you take those 4 T40 bolts off, it is spring loaded, so be very careful as you undo it. It will just go shoo, and these can fall apart. Now the problem that I ran into, which other people may well, or I was just unlucky, these do come apart. Now it doesn't want to come apart. Alright. So that's like your piston plunger, spring, and now inside here is another spring and a ball bearing. So that ball bearing drops into right there, and you'll see on the end of the spring is like a base that the ball bearing sits on. That goes in first, the spring goes on second, and this goes on last. And not that that's the hard bit, but I actually had this piece here fall out. Now this little piece here, I'm not sure what its purpose is, maybe some sort of restrictor or something. That actually fell out, and there's a tiny little spring that sits underneath it, and I was under the assumption that that lived inside here somewhere with the other spring and ball bearing. It doesn't, and it's taken me forever to figure it out, but this just presses back into this side. See, that's only a little hole there, and that sort of fitting thing presses in there. It's quite a pain to get back in, so I won't pull this one out, but if it does pop off and you're left with extra pieces, that's where it lives. That's how it all goes back together. Then it's just as simple as put your new O-rings in, seat that up where it needs to go, push that forward, it's under a bit of tension, and then zap your bolts back in tight. These bolts were so tight on this pump that I thought I was going to be able to do this on the car. You might get lucky and be able to do it on the car, but these are very, very simple to take out. It's literally undo all the lines off it and 3 bolts and it will slide out. The pump is not timed. It just literally has a slot. It sits on this little fitting here. Sits on the end of that, and then obviously there's a gear in amongst the timing chain and all the other stuff that's in the front of the engine. Just slots into that. So you just pretty much find where that needs to sit in and it locks in, and you've got 3 Allen key bolts, 6mm Allen key bolts, which hold that in. I've actually pulled the inlet manifold off because I was trying to get to just the top piston on the fuel pump, but the bolts were that tight that without removing the inlet manifold to be able to put an impact gun on them, I was going to strip them. So the intake manifold is sort of a blessing that I've taken it off, because it was that carboned up. This has got 300,000 kilometers on it, and the amount of carbon and junk that was in the intake manifold was unreal. Not completely blocked, but it's like one of those nightmare pictures you see saying you should have a carbon clean done on your intake. This was definitely due for it. So sort of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You may well be able to get away without pulling the inlet manifold off. The pump just lives into that little hole down here. So 1, 2, 3 Allen keys, undo it, and it literally just wiggle it and it will slide out. Hope this can help someone. Oh, another thing is the seals to replace in those pumps. I actually got them from Patrolapart in Melbourne, Lilydale, Melbourne. There's your part numbers. I'll put them in the description anyway. These are the 3 O-rings. This will do 1, well, I guess you would call cylinder, piston, plunger, whatever you like to call it. So if you want to replace all 9 seals, you need to buy, this is only to do 1. I'm going to buy others now that I've had it all apart and understand how this works. I'm going to buy another 2 sets of these 3 and just do all 3, considering I've got the pump out now. The 3 O-rings will set you back, oh, how much was it? Yeah, 45 bucks between the 3 of them. So this is a much cheaper option than getting a replacement pump. These are pricey, not as pricey as like a VP pump. I know that they're crazy, like a TD42 or a direct injection ZD30, but still, these are a couple of grand. People say that they do remanufactured ones for like 1,500 to 2 grand, or a brand spanker is sort of about 3 grand. But I'm hoping that I can whack some seals in this and it'll fix it. I've read on the forums that many people have done the same, but I just wasn't able to find enough information of where to get the seals, how to pull it apart, and where they go. So hope this helps.